What's up, everyone, and welcome into another exciting edition of the ZFarls Stay Hungry podcast. We got episode 5 for you today. We're going to talk about why I am a fan of the New York Football Giants. So let's get into that. But first, just a couple housekeeping notes. Make sure to subscribe either on Spotify or your other favorite podcast app. We also do a video version of the pod over on YouTube, where you can see a couple video clips, some pictures, small things, not a ton, but just depends where you like to watch or listen to the show. First thing, we do always start with either a topic, an idea, a game I'm playing, or just something in general that I'm thinking about before we discuss, the topics. Last week we went over books. Today's topic will be just kind of showing up. So these are my thoughts on showing up. The story would be this. You have a guy, he goes to the gym, and he's new, and he wants to get better, so he goes up to the biggest guy in the gym, and he's like, hey man, what protein do you take? And this jack dude's just like, whey protein, doesn't matter. He's like, no, what brand? And the jack guy's just like, get it at GNC, doesn't matter, whatever's there. And the newer guy's like, no, man, you got to have a secret. Do you mix it with milk? Do you mix it with water? Do you take it before? Do you take it after? Do you take it both? Is this kind of protein better than that kind of protein? And the jack dude's just like, I don't know, man. It just doesn't matter. But every single day, that guy is there. That guy's there every single day. And it's not the protein shake that matters. But I think when people get started, they think about trying something new. They think, well, what playbook do you run? Or what microphone do you use? Or what kind of protein do you take? They want to know the tactics or the little tips and tricks about the specific thing they're into. But that's not really the point in the journey they're ready for. The whole main point is just that the big dude shows up every day. The pro person shows up every day. And the person who's still new has to set that habit, set that routine, set that mindset. Sure, you want to optimize your protein intake. Sure, you want to have a plan. Sure. But if you bog yourself down and really wonder what is this best minor thing that at the end of the day probably doesn't matter as much as just getting there, that is something to consider. So that's like a little lesson I think about sometimes. Just get in there and start focus on it. Everything else will fall in place. So those are my early thoughts on showing up / determination. As we noted, today's episode is about the New York Football Giants, my relationship with them as a team, and why I am a fan of the squad. The reason I chose this topic today is because S. Gibbs always gives me crap about being a Giants fan because I did grow up outside of Boston. And so, that is a little bit puzzling to some people. The Patriots are obviously a juggernaut, obviously a good team, and I'm not a fan of the New England Patriots. I have respect for the Patriots. We'll talk about that on my journey. But overall, I am a New York Football Giants fan, and some people want to know why. Because I do like the Red Sox, I do like the Celtics, I do like the Bruins, and people find that interesting. So here's the story, how I tell it, and also some of it might be real, some of it might be made up. I don't even know anymore which parts of this story are true versus which parts are false or how they actually happened. But all I know is what's semi-real to me in this moment with my poor memory that I never wrote anything down. I think it starts off in 1990. I think I'm young then. I think I'm like 4 or 5. I don't want to say it's my first memory. I've been trying to think back to what is my first memory. I remember nursery school, but I remember it from the third person, not from first person. So I remember going down a slide at nursery school. I don't know how old I was, but that's my first thing I can remember. But like I said, it's in the third person, so I don't know why that would be that way. But I think one of my first memories is possibly the kick, the 1990 Buffalo Bills missed field goal. I would have been, I think, 4 years old. I don't remember watching it on TV. I just remember a lot of people being at my house and a lot of people holding hands and then jumping up and down and yelling. Could be fake in my memory. Could be real. Maybe it's not my first memory, but I do think it is one of my earlier memories that I can remember. That's a good question for the chat today. What is the first thing you remember from your life? Kind of interesting when you think about it. You live for 3 or 4 years and you don't even remember any of it. So it's possible that one of my first memories in life is a great moment for the New York Giants. It's also possible that I made that up after. But I don't know. That's something I don't actually know. Anyway, moving on from there, to back it up, to really go into the detail, to the nuts and bolts of it, my family is New York Giants fans. Why? Story has it my grandfather went to college where Wellington Mara, the owner of the Giants, went. And when they were a new team, they would come into the dining hall, hand out tickets, get people to go. Obviously, the NFL was still new. And my family became big fans of the Giants. The Giants have moved around, had a lot of homes over the years. They played in Hartford. They played in... Before they got to New Jersey, I think they played at Yankee Stadium. They played at a bunch of locations. And my family was from New York, so they would go to the games. And they grew a love for football and the Giants specifically as their team. So that is why I'm a fan of the Giants. Starting out, my dad being a big fan recently. So we do have, my family has season tickets to the Giants. We would go to all the games. So even though we lived in Boston on Sundays, we had 2 tickets and we would drive, and they still do drive to New Jersey. It takes about 3 hours on a Sunday morning to get there. And that's what we would do. So I started going to games when I was like 6 years old. I'm pretty sure I was about 6 as my first game. You had to be able to ride in the car for 3 hours. So that's a long time. My dad would take us. We would drive down, get there, go to the game, and then we would drive back. I do think the first game I ever went to, I'm not sure, it might have been against the Rams. One of the reasons I think that is because I have a bunch of pennants like that you hang on your wall. When I would go to the games when I was a kid, I would always get a pennant as like a souvenir from going to the game. So I did have a pennant collection. I don't know where those went. The only pennant I still have is the Super Bowl against the Pats one. But that was a big thing for me going down there. Michael Strahan played in that game. I want to say it was one of his rookie season, if I had to guess. And obviously he was a thread throughout the entire season with the Giants, going in many, many seasons. Like his whole career spanned my love for the Giants as well. So that was kind of a unique tie. I went back and looked at a box score. I don't know. I could totally be making it up. Once again, that's a detail I don't remember. I know I saw the Cardinals play. I know I saw... I can't think of many other games from that early time where it was like Dave Brown and Ken Graham as the 2 quarterbacks. I know I used to see the Cardinals. I think I saw the Rams. That's all I can remember. I do know I would try and stay up and watch the games later when it was like Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. If they played the Cowboys, that would always be a big thing. Remember Deion Sanders playing on the Cowboys? Oh, but the games would be so late that I could only watch really the first half. So my progression from there, where this story takes an interesting turn, is you had to be a Giants fan in my house growing up. Like you couldn't. The joke was like you don't have to be a Giants fan, but you just can't live here. And so I think they were half serious. You really had to be a Giants fan. I remember liking the Chiefs and the Lions. The Lions, I think, because Barry Sanders, and the Chiefs just because they had a red uniform and I saw them on TV. And you're a child, and red's a color. So I remember sort of being interested in those teams, but ultimately once I went to a game, I was like, no, I gotta be a Giants fan because that's the rule. We had a fortunate turn of events where somebody that we are very friendly with became one of the coaches for the Giants, an assistant coach, and so it was a very nice bonus for a lot of years where we would drive down, get to go into the bubble after the game, the practice bubble, where they would have food, and they would have some of the players would go and eat after games. So we were already had the tickets, but we got this extra experience, and it was really cool. I mean, it was amazing. It was the coolest thing ever as a kid to go in and see players eating, the coaches, and say hello to people and have this extra experience. That obviously locked it in. I would say that locked it in because now you're seeing the players, you're seeing after the game, you're learning more stats, you're getting older, you become more of a fan of sports in general, and then you're getting all this access, and the food was good too. It's, different than when we would stop and get sandwiches. Now you get a little buffet after the game, before the game, go in, and it was awesome. It was awesome. It was really, I think, one of the coolest things about just having a great relationship with my dad. You spent a lot of time together in the car, driving down, and just awesome. That was really what locked it in. However, that was tested. So before I get into the Patriots era, in 2000, the Giants made the Super Bowl against the Ravens. So this was the Giants' first experience in a big game where other people came out of the woodwork to annoy me about my Giants fandom. So, flash cut to 1997. So, every single kid I met in elementary school was a Cowboys fan. Every single person was a Cowboys fan. Because they won, I think, 94, 95, 96. Like, that era, the Cowboys were awesome. So, every kid had, like, a starter jacket that was Cowboys. Was crazy. All of a sudden, in 1997, like, I'm just in my own world as a Giants fan. And I have no idea that the Patriots are an NFL team. Because they don't play. There's no crossover. I don't have a TV, I don't think. And I just have no idea that the Patriots are a thing. They were not that popular, in my opinion. The people were all Cowboys fans in my class. But all of a sudden, the Patriots make the Super Bowl in 97. I knew one Patriots fan. I did know one Patriots fan, but everybody else, Cowboys fan. Flash cut, they make the Super Bowl, and now I got to go to a Super Bowl party where they play the Packers. Everybody's jambalaya. Everybody's cutting up their cheese head. Bill Parcells, he was obviously with the Giants previously, so now he's with the Pats. So it's a big deal, big story. I'm in Boston. Everyone's going nuts for the Patriots. I'm like, Dad, who are the Patriots? What is this? Once again, this is how I recall it. Patriots lose to the Packers, goes quiet for like 3 years. So you never really hear from the Patriots fans again, but all of a sudden, there's a little seed of interest igniting, fun stuff about the Patriots. And I'm just like, okay. So anyway, the Giants make it in 2000. I think I'm approaching high school, not quite in high school. They blow out the Vikings, which is awesome. In 97, they did have a good season with Danny Cannell. I think they went 10-5-1, but I don't think they did any. They lost to the Vikings in the playoffs. But in 2000, they upset the Vikings 41-0, monster game, and they played the Ravens in Tampa. I think my dad went to the game. I stayed home because I was a child, and we had a Super Bowl party at our house. Everyone came over, but none of them cared about the Giants, so they all just yelled at me. And then, of course, Giants get blown out by the Ravens. However, I will state for the record there, if you go back and watch that game, it was closer than the score indicates. 2 reasons. Number one, Giants intercept Trent Dilfer. Keith Hamilton gets the football. I think he runs it back pretty nicely when the game's still close. They call defensive holding, which was actually offensive holding when you look at the play. So the Giants would have had the ball, better field position, could have kept control of the game. Kerry Collins, legend. I disagree with that call. I think that call turned the game, turned it into a shootout, which the Giants were not equipped to handle the Ravens defense at that time. So very unfortunate. So I consider the Giants actually winning that Super Bowl because I don't agree with that call. So anyway, as the Giants were getting blown out, I fought my friend because he was giving me crap. There's a rumor that it may have bit him. I don't recall that part of the story. There was also a bowl of Doritos that fell on the ground. But it was heated. It was heated. I was young. I was spry. I was like, you know what? You don't talk trash about the Giants. Let's scrap. We threw down. Somebody got bit. I don't remember. Flash cut to 2001. Then the Patriots upset the Rams in the Super Bowl. So very vividly remember watching the Raider game at a party of Patriots fans. Now everybody likes the Pats, including my neighbor, who was actually probably a legitimate Pats fan at the time. So now all of a sudden I have this relationship with the Patriots. The Giants, aren't that great at that time. The Snow Bowl game, okay, that was a great game. Regardless of and I really like football too. I really like football as a whole. I like the plays. I like the players. Now I'm playing Madden. I'm trying to develop teams. Learning the game as a whole. I like all aspects of football. So that was a great game. And you're hoping that the Patriots will lose. So when you're watching it, you're like, man, that was crazy. Next, they win. They go to the Super Bowl. Go to my friend's house. Now they're all Pats fans. Now they're all having Super Bowl parties. And they win. They beat the Rams. Upset. My friends were really happy. So on one hand, it was like, wow, it's probably good to see your friends happy. But then at the other time, I'm like, this is bad for me because it means it's a zero-sum game. If the Pats are good, then the Giants aren't good. And my team needs to be better than their team. This is when I used to argue about sports. And it was devastating. It was devastating. However, I had to go into Boston. I do remember this. I had to go into Boston the next day. Everybody was wearing Pats gear. I had to go into the hospital for some medical checks on my foot. And we listened to sports radio, so they were loving it. We listened to... they had the YouTube Beautiful Day songs. I probably heard that 1,000 times that day. And it was a nice day for Boston. It was good because they had never won. Overall, there are a ton of fans in Boston that were big-time fans back at the Schaefer Stadium, and they tell you all the stories and the bleachers at Old Foxborough. But it's a shifted crowd, in my opinion, from the people that I knew. I didn't really know any of those people. I only knew these new fans, and they gave me a lot of heat. But I vividly remember that day. Then the Pats lose the next season. They don't make the playoffs. And I think all is well. And then 2004, they win again. I had to go to the same house party. They win. Not happy. They win again 2005. Now it's bad. Now I'm in high school, and my friends are like, hey, do you want to become a Patriots fan? They gave me a sheet of paper that was like, here is your questionnaire, your form to become a Patriots fan, and had questions and all this stuff on it. And at that point, I am now on the internet. I'm reading ESPN.com in general. I'm following the NFL as a whole. Still love the Giants, but I like the NFL as a whole. I'm reading power rankings. This team's better than that team. I'm mad. I'm excited. I'm the Giants should be higher. So I never considered. I was like, well, my dad would disown me, so I got to rip this paper up in a show of no thank you. But as much as I like the Giants, number one, my number two thing was the Patriots, but for hating and hoping they would lose. So it was I paid as much attention to the Patriots as I did to the Giants, but in the opposite. How will they not be good? They drafted Asante Samuel, and everyone's like, man, this kid's actually pretty good. And I'm like, that's bad. But I knew they drafted Asante Samuel. I guarantee if I went to 10 of my friends, 9 of them would be like, who's Asante Samuel? I don't know who that is. But I was studying up because I was like, the Giants got to be better. Anyway, that went on and on and on. Then it gets to a boiling point, 2007. Pats are undefeated. I know at this point now I know S. Gibbs. Awful. And they're just crushing people. I remember watching, they blew out the Redskins 52-7 in week 4. They had a really tough game against the Ravens that they should have lost, but I think Rex Ryan took a timeout. So now they're undefeated. They're in the playoffs. I go to the 16-0 game. Drive down to the 16-0 game with my brother. We go. Giants play strong. And they actually play, and they don't just rest because Giants were already in the playoffs. They prove that they can hang with the Patriots. But it's not great. It's not great because the Pats are probably going to win another Super Bowl. But the Giants are still alive. They go to Tampa. They win. They go to Dallas. They win. Again, in Jerry World, or what would become Jerry World. They win against the Romo Cowboys. I think we're 14-2. They then go to Green Bay. Ice cold. Beat Brett Favre. Corey Webster. Interception. So I would watch the games at home. I would actually leave college where Gibbs was and drive to my house and watch the games with my family. We'd get food. My younger brother would not watch the games with us. He would watch upstairs on the Lucky TV. My girlfriend at the time came over to the house in the fourth quarter with like 5 minutes left in the Packer game, and I was downstairs, he was upstairs, so he had to let her in the house, but he didn't let her in the house because he didn't want to upset the mojo, and she stayed in the driveway through overtime. Well, I think I went up there in overtime to be like, Griff, it's overtime. Then I'm like, who's here? And he's like, well, she can't come in. And I'm like, dude, really? Yeah, she sat in the driveway for the part of the fourth quarter, and then I think she came in during overtime, or possibly we had her stay out there. I don't know. But the Giants won, so it was a quick ending, too, though, in overtime, because they got to pick pretty fast. But that's how serious it was. Super Bowl, same thing. I drove home because they would just torture me. My roommates, Gibbs, would just torture me during the Giants games. They'd leave me messages. They left me messages during that Super Bowl, which maybe I'll play someday. They were not kind messages. They were not words of encouragement. They were the opposite. They taunted Eli Manning, who ultimately delivered a game-winning drive on the way to his first Super Bowl MVP. So there was a lot. It was heated, but they were all good times. Great celebration to win. I did not go to the Glendale Super Bowl against the Pats, the first one, because I was a college student, had $0. But I always was like, you know what? If they ever make it again, like I would have given anything retroactively to be at that Super Bowl. Obviously, you don't know they're gonna win, but I made up for it. Still love the Giants. 2011, they got Hakeem Nicks era. They got Victor Cruz era. They got the Brandon Jacobs era, Ahmad Bradshaw era. Still, and Bradshaw was in the first Super Bowl. So was Jacobs, but different set of receivers. You graduated from the Monty Toomers to the Hakeem Nicks, Mario Manningham. They make the Super Bowl in Indy. They play the Pats again. Wild. Like, what are the odds? I gotta go. I end up being out there for work, but I had to get my own ticket. So I ended up buying my own ticket to the game. Still, it was a good amount. It was a lot. But they win. I actually have a vlog from the game. I'll put a picture up, or I'll link it below. I recorded when I was there, so that was pretty sweet. And that just gave me a lifelong journey. That just wrapped it all up. Like, I got to go see the Giants beat the Pats. No matter what happens, Tom Brady is the GOAT, but no matter what happens, Eli beat him twice. Not just once, not a fluke, which the helmet play, not a fluke, first of all. I'll go back to that. First of all, that first game, not a fluke. The Giants just beat him straight up, 5 sacks. They shut down the greatest offense of all time. They only scored 14 points. Like, I am not aligned to the narrative that the first Super Bowl was a fluke. It was not in any way. You look at it, we got after it. Pats didn't play their best game. Giants wanted it more, in my opinion. And so, whatever. Him breaking out of the sack, amazing. The catch, amazing. Insane. But the second Super Bowl, weirder game from a scoring perspective, like more field goals, and there was a safeties, like awkward plays, but good stuff there. That regular season, they beat him again in Foxborough. I went to that game. I just crossed everything off my bucket list. From that point forward, still love the Giants, but there's been some lean years mixed in there. Obviously, we made the playoffs in the Odell year, which I streamed that game, where we got unlucky on a Hail Mary. I'll put a picture of that one. For the most part, though, I still love the Giants. Always will love the Giants. Still watch all the games. But I'm less angry about everything. And I'm less nervous that the Pats are going to be an amazing team. Because since then, obviously the Pats won the Seahawks Super Bowl on a great play. They then won the Falcons Super Bowl. And then they won the Super Bowl last year as well against the Rams, which, not a great game. Fortunately, I've been able to go to a few more Super Bowls. Not for the Giants, but just and the Pats have been in 3 of them. So every Super Bowl I've been to, the Pats have been in 4 Super Bowls. 2 of the games were amazing. The Eagle game and I really did want to see the Pats actually kind of beat the Eagles, just because you always had that over an Eagle fan being in the NFC East, that the Giants had beat the Eagles. But it was a great game either way. And I actually respect the way that Doug Peterson called plays in the Super Bowl. Just him going for it on that like 4th and 1, 4th and 2 when they had the ball with like 5 minutes to go and they hit Ertz to convert. Not the touchdown, but before. It's like I like teams that are aggressive. I like teams that go for it on 4th down when it's appropriate and don't just punt and cross their fingers. Like nothing drives me more insane watching football than that. I tip the cap. You tip the cap. But anyway, so being able to go to those Pats Super Bowls, and then obviously having friends that are now 18 years into their Pats fandom, they're Tom Brady Pats fans. You know, if they're happy, then it's better than, at least people you know are happy. So that's always good. But pretty much the story of me being a Giants fan is started real young as a kid, going to the games through my family, and ultimately that's what led me further down the path of the Giants fandom. So it's not weird to me. It's weird when people don't understand. People do. The reason people chirp me about being a Giants fan is because I chirp them about being a fan of whatever team. It's like I meet all these people in Florida, and it's like, yeah, no, I like the Packers and I like the Lakers. And I'm like, do you like Duke basketball too? Like, they just have no allegiance, no logic, no loyalty to their squads. Somebody the other day is like, yeah, I'm gonna be a Seahawks fan this playoffs. And I was like, this playoffs? Like, aren't you a Giants fan? He's like, yeah, but I like Russell Wilson. And I'm like, what? Sure, you can want them to win, but it's like to announce your fandom, dude. Come on. We don't do that. You ride or die. There's a lot of wishy-washy fandom. There's a lot of I like this player, or people changing it up. That's not for me. That's not for me. You got to stick with the squad. But then they give me heat back when they say, oh, you're from Boston. You like the Celtics? You like the Red Sox? So reason I like the Celtics, number one, there was like a small time frame in like 2002 when Antoine Walker, Paul Pierce were on the squad. We went to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Nets. They had a game where they came back. I got to go to that game. Big time Celtics fan from that era. Obviously, the truth was amazing. The Big Three Celtics, awesome to be there and to watch that. I wish we had more than one championship. I think that the fact that we lost the second final to the Lakers in Game 7, like that haunts me. That prevents me from enjoying things as much as I should. Like that, losing that just hurts. In high school, the Red Sox were good. So pretty much for the time they tried to trade for Alex Rodriguez and it got denied, to when they got Manny, to when they lost to the Yankees on Aaron Boone. I was in high school. We would watch that all the time. Derek Lowe, Pedro, Don Zimmer, like all of that I lived through, plus sports radio was in Boston because I was in Boston. So it was really Red Sox heavy in that time frame. Really enjoyed that 04 amazing run. That solidified everything about the Red Sox. They won again in 07, won again in 11, won again 2 years ago. Those were all great. The 07 one was nice, being in college and enjoying that with a different crowd, but the 04 is out of control. So that's why I like the Sox. I used to go to games in like 95. They were not great, but I like the Mariners. So growing up, I actually really liked the Mariners, and because they had Ken Griffey Jr., and I got to go. I saw Randy Johnson. A family friend took us, or a friend of mine, they would take us. We got to go to a luxury box one time, which as a kid I was like, wait, you just eat hot dogs? There's just unlimited hot dogs in here? Got to see Junior Griffey and Randy Johnson. Even though I wasn't a Sox fan at that time, I was like, Fenway's sweet. This is cool. My dad took me, I think in 99, we went to the All-Star game was at Fenway, so we didn't go to the game, but went to like a fan fest. That was pretty sweet. Went to a Phillies game. I played on the Phillies in Little League, so I liked the Phillies a little bit. We went on my birthday, and it was like 100 degrees. A big lady was sitting next to me. It was so hot. The seats are looking the wrong way. There was like a pipe dripping on me. Still awesome. Shout out to my dad for bringing me to that. But it was rough. It was rough out there. And now being able to go to a lot of games and knowing how much things cost and how much you got to spend and invest, and like bring your kid to this game and after work, like, I'm really appreciative of being able to go to some of those Celtics games in the 2002 era, being able to go to a lot of those Red Sox games, and all of that. I did go to a Bruins game, one or two games, just because if my dad would get tickets, we would go. So I think I went to one or two games. Not really huge hockey, but all my friends liked the Bruins a lot. 2008, the Bruins started to get pretty strong. I know they were good in 2000. They had Joe Thornton. They had a series that I remember a lot of people watching, like, oh, there are a lot of Bruins fans, I guess. And then ultimately their 2011 run, watched a lot of hockey that year, and they got a cup. So all good there. It hurts me that they lost the other two cups. That one of the Blackhawks hurt, because I thought they outplayed the Hawks in a lot of ways, and there was a couple games that really could have went to the Bruins. And then in last year with the Blues, no shame in losing to the Blues Game 7, but you'd like to see them close that out, close that chapter with a lot of those guys that they have. So overall, that's why I like those teams, my squads. Every other team I don't really have too crazy of a preference for, but it is all about the Giants, and that is why I like them. And if you have any other questions, let me know. But Gibbs always, likes to bring it up that, oh, he grew up in Boston area, but he is a Giants fan. So that's why. That's why. It's not that weird. It's not even that good of a story, but it's just, that's what it is. That's how it is. And if you knew the Giants era, so real quick, I got some Wikipedia here. I mean, we were not a peak squad in a lot of the years I was there. So obviously we got a couple championships, and they're nicely spaced out. So the Giants played at Yankee Stadium from 56 to 73. Then they played at the Yale Bowl for a year. Then they played at Shea Stadium for a year. And then in 1976, Giants Stadium opened. So playoffs, 2000, 2002, 05, 06, 07, 08. Not bad. We did have Sean Payton as OC for a while. I was a big fan of that. I was going to look at some records. There were some rough years. I did like the Kerry Collins years quite a lot. And I also liked the... we had some amazing... We had Chris Calloway, we had Stephen Baker, we had Tito Wooten, Felipe Sparks. We had some folks that I just, as a kid, you're like, all right, this is who we roll with. Like, these were our dudes. Lawrence Taylor, he was just before my appreciation. So that's all I got. I moved the camera back today on this episode so that my mustache wouldn't get as sweaty. Hopefully it looks a little better. I got this microphone here, which we'll plug the audio in for, and hopefully it sounds good. Sounds better. This has been another episode of the ZFarls Stay Hungry podcast. We're going to have the Gibbs episode coming up, and we'll take more questions, more topics, but just wanted to get this one out there and let you guys know how much sports fans can mean, being a fan of a team can mean to someone, and then also the connections that it puts together, for me with my family or your friends or whatever. It's a great, dialogue. It's a great context to the time. I remember where I was when I watched certain games. I remember who I was with, or, the players on a certain team, or, a time frame remind you of certain things, or the style of player that you have, like a Brandon Jacobs. It's you're going to tell your kid about Brandon Jacobs in 25 years because he was a beast. Derrick Henry trucking people right now, he's, ultimately probably better than Brandon Jacobs was, but you'll look fondly back on that moment. You'll remember Ahmad Bradshaw, stealing back a fumble in the 07 playoffs against the Pats. There's a play in that game in the third quarter. Somebody fumbles. He, steals the ball from Adalius Thomas. No one ever talks about it. And I remember, the Packer game, also the Niner 2011 championship game is it's kind of the Kyle Williams game because he had a couple unfortunate, punt plays. But Eli Manning just got destroyed in that game. He just got crushed. And he never backed down. He just kept going out there, not scoring. that game was just a field goal away for like 6 drives back and forth. I'm like, they're going to score if we don't score. Ultimately, we got the field position on the special teams, but you'll go back and watch those. You'll go back. It's like nostalgia. It's like it's a break in case of emergency. You open it, you smell the nostalgia, and you're like, yeah, I remember that. So sports, it's a time capsule. It's a emotional capsule. It's a people capsule. You get to predict. You get to test your assumptions. Like, I thought this team was this way, but they lost to that team. That must, you're always trying to place it. I just hope. I'm glad I avoid a lot of the bickering, a lot of like, is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer? And then it's like, he is a Hall of Famer because blah, 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 blah. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, Eli Manning being a Hall of Famer is not going to change my life in any way. He is a Hall of Famer, for the record. But it's like, I'm not going to get mad about it. I would get mad about it. It would make me angry. It would make me legitimately angry. Like, Stephen A. Smith is not smart. He doesn't think he's a Hall of Famer. It's like, no, he's just hamming it up. He's just going nuts. I don't want to go nuts. I'm more relaxed. You don't have to get hostile with other fan bases. You can like what other teams do. You don't have to dislike other players. It's more relaxed. But there's an appreciation for what it was to me. So that's what this one's about. And I didn't even get into one of the world's best sandwiches, the Hero Haven Belly Buster sandwich in New Jersey on the way to the Giant Stadium that we would get every time we would go. I think it's closed now, but I mean, it was the best sandwich in America, the best Italian sandwich in America. So good, and just another reason to enjoy driving down there with Pops on Sundays, crossing over the bridge, good times. That is all. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave us a review if you can do that. Also, check us out over on YouTube if that's not where you're watching. I will add a couple pictures. I'll link to that vlog of the Super Bowl 2011 experience, and that's it. All right, until next time, stay hungry and lock up.